Welcome back to the show. And I am extra fired up today because we are going to have a powerhouse conversation with the Lou Diamond, not Lou Diamond Phillips, everybody. This is way better because we're going to be here with Lou Diamond today on the YouTube channel and on everywhere you guys listen to this podcast, talking about the incredible work that's coming out of Thrive Loud Productions. And Lou, we're going to get into all of it. We're going to be talking about monetizing podcasts. We're going to be talking about the crucial importance, not just for entrepreneurs anymore, but CEOs, leaders of any kind, in developing a personal brand, in getting your work out there. So we have a lot to cover. Let's get right into it. Lou, you are an author, a leader, you're a strategist, you have an incredible top, 1% podcast. We'll let you guys know everywhere you're going to follow Lou at the end, author of Speakeasy. And really, your mission right now is where we're going to get started today, which is helping leaders, CEOs, people who are thought leaders, like what we do here, making sure their voice gets heard and making sure they make their impact. And so, welcome to the show.
Oh, Sarah, honored to be here. Excited. We've just recently connected, and we've got you on my show, me on your show. It's a little home and home going on here. So excited to connect with your audience and community.
It's so fun to flip it, right? You're
Yeah.
used to interviewing everyone, and now we get the pleasure of having you here and learning from you today. And thanks so much for making the time. Well, we're going to get right into it. We are in a unique time in history, in industry, in marketing, in thought leadership, and all these things. And you and I were chatting yesterday, pre-show, about this. It used to be, even up until last year, I think, that a leader of a company could be the person behind the logo, the company name, the picture on the website of the office building, whatever it is. And I think you and I talked about we are not in that time anymore. So do you want to lead us into this and
Yeah.
see what you're seeing? What are the kind of forecasting, what's going on in the marketplace?
Let's do a little evolution and combine two things together. Um, for all of the people listening out there, if you haven't heard that there's a retention problem within an organization somewhere in this country, you haven't been listening. Keeping people within their organizations is the number one priority. And for whatever reason, the ability to have a lot of flexibility and people can flip their careers in different ways. But there's some really great people being lost, and it's very expensive to keep these people. Let's use that as a backdrop. And now let's talk about the way that companies used to, the old ivory tower analogy years ago. There used to be memos, or annual reports coming from the CEO might be the only exposure you have. Over the years, email, came out and we started getting newsletters and communications. And maybe in some of the more larger corporations, you would get a corporate video that would probably be a message from
Yeah.
the CEO, whatever it would be. And they talked about the branding of this. Well, somewhere along the line, the innovation on the way that people are communicating inside of organizations, internally, externally, from the leadership of the company, kind of hit a halt. I don't
Mhm.
know why. I think a lot of it has been there's been so many other focus areas and places to go in.
Yeah.
And this is the area that I have seen the most success for people that you and I work with, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, whether it's YouTube, podcasts, um, using social media to give out vlogs or blogs and communicating, connecting. And some CEOs have still been in the bring the fingers to the keyboard or the pen to paper, and they've been writing their messages. And maybe they'll come up with a message here or there. But the reality is to connect with your people, to connect your brand and your business, there is no better medium and a better time today than be thinking about doing this and creating great content, creating shows, showing the connectivity, internal featuring of people. There's a lot of internal podcasts going on. It is this whole world right now that is starting to just burst like a big bubble. And I'm saying this to all your CEOs or thought leaders that are listening to this program right now. If you are not currently thinking about growing your own brand and to help grow your company's brand today, you are missing the boat and need to catch up because this is something you should be doing yesterday. This is how organizations are distinguishing themselves from others. This is how they're leading the pack and thinking forward and showing that connectivity. And these are the organizations that are holding on to their people a little longer for retention. So keep it in mind that there must be some parallel between these two worlds, that this is why this is happening. and it makes sense. We want to have a face with that organization, a connection with that person that isn't just a corporate speak. It's a real understanding and an authenticity that is the magic that draws people in and keeps people connected. And that's what I've been focused my whole career on, Sarah. And we just happen to be hitting it right now, here in 2025, where it is becoming a very important thing that you should be thinking about and you should be doing.
I love this so much, Lou, because the fact that you are the thought leader in this is so exciting because first of all, sort of two things I want to pull from what you just shared. The first is we never want to be, I call it the Borders books, right? When all of a sudden, we all know there was Barnes and Noble and there was Borders, and when the trend to digital essentially started happening, Barnes and Noble said, "Oh, we better figure out, a digital platform. We better make ebooks available. We better really pay attention to this," and even started to adopt their stores to be cafes and have toys and other things. Borders like, no, like we're in our lane. We're books. We're people love books, and people do love books, but that company went out of business so
Yeah.
fast because they didn't catch the wave quite early enough to adapt. Blockbuster, we can look at other of these like big, big, big companies. So there's the piece about just truly, this is not a luxury anymore. This isn't a nice to have.
It's a
Like
need.
what you're talking about is an absolute necessity. It is
Yeah.
a necessity, and we'll get into some strategy around this today because I know you've got great things that you're doing with. You're flooded. I mean, we were saying you're being flooded with applications, people saying, "Help, I know I need this now." And so like you said, if you haven't, they always say that if the best day to start something, if it wasn't 10 years ago, is today. Right? So let's all take that piece, right? Like if you haven't already gotten on this train, whether you're an entrepreneur or a CEO or you're, managing a company, this is essential. And the other thing I've been thinking, Lou, and I want to get your thoughts on this, there's that famous Simon Sinek TED talk from a number of years ago where he gave the big Apple example of people don't buy what you sell, they buy why you do it.
Right.
I think this year, it's not people buying why we do it, it's people buying who they're going to be
Mm.
in relationship with. And that includes team buying into saying yes to a job or staying at a job. And it includes consumers, clients, customers that are buying into if you're an entrepreneur or your customer base, if you're in leading a company. Do you think that's true?
100%.
Yeah.
I think the trust is a real interesting challenge these days. Um, I mean, how many solicitations, listeners and viewers, do you get that there's some service trying to ask you for your help, whether it's that, you should be paying someone to promote you through social media, that you should be starting some kind of mailing list or get on, subscribe to some software, whatever it might be. You're getting bombarded with it. And it's just an influx of insane amounts of content. It's so much so that people are just they can't even get to it. The old I want to get my inbox to zero is almost impossible. Uh, but I believe that we find trust with those that we connect with, and do some self branding here. When I wrote Speakeasy, I tried to decode where every connection in our lives begins. We all know connection is important. We know we work better, we we flow better, ideas are passed, things happen faster. There's more success when you have a connected organization, connected friends, connected social relationships,
Yeah.
connected personal relationships. All of those things happen when you have strong connections. And I was obsessed with figuring out where it all began. And every great connection begins with a great conversation.
Mm,
And when we have that good conversation and we connect with another human being, there's so much transmitted back and forth. Our worlds come together. We learn about somebody else. They learn about us. We almost take a piece of somebody every time we connect with them. And I think that's the underlying thought of the leaders today wanting to present themselves and come forward, not in a very corporate speaky way, which everyone reads through the bullshit. Everyone reads through that point right now where they want to see the clear vision of who I'm dealing with. And
yes.
the more real we can get with that person, and the more that a leader of a company can authentically communicate, which I know is an overused word these days, authentic, but to be real for who they are. And
Yeah.
and I'm going to state this. There were two interesting opinions that are happening at the time that we're recording this. Recently, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, had an entire rant that got caught of his frustration with there was a petition going around that they didn't want to go back to work 5 days a week.
Right.
And he hit every point of something that I've always said how important it is, not just for people to go into the work to get the work done and be more efficient, but that younger people are learning over the years from their older peers who have been there. And if they're not, the older ones are not going into work. And that's who he was frustrated with. But he gave this real version of himself. And whether you liked or agreed with it or not, you knew exactly what you were getting. I've also seen a bunch of other leaders come out there, and when they really come from the heart, and you can smell that that's real, that's what they connect with, and that's what you hope to connect with. So, what forums are there that you can actually do this consistently? What are the options for you to do that so that when you look and I'm going to buy from this company, I don't know who I'm getting it from. I want to associate that human piece. A podcast, a YouTube program, the leader of a company being able to brand that out is so important and so vital right now because that's a way that we can at least feel that trust a little bit better than the other
Yes.
ways we have.
And Lou, we're going to get in now to some strategy of like when someone says, okay, you've convinced me, Lou, like I know I need to do this. Oh crap, I didn't start it, 10 years ago. I'm starting today. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Just before we do that, this is so important. Um, Also the trends, just so everyone listening knows, people don't want the scripted, like Lou's talking about, the polished State
Yeah.
of the Union. Someone speech wrote. I know people that used to be speech writers at Microsoft, like for Bill Gates, all this stuff. No one wants that shit anymore. They do not want it. They want the real thing. Like you're saying, whether it's a rant and you're going to attract and repel, because some people probably really didn't like that speech, and some people, or that rant, and some people really probably felt like finally someone's being real. So the unscripted, long form, everybody,
Yeah.
long form, unscripted is that's the essential marketing piece. If you don't have it in place, and we're going to talk, Lou, now about podcasts because you're such a master not only at your own and growing your own, but you teach this. You
Yeah.
coach this, you teach this, you teach people how to do this effectively. But I want everyone to take away long form, more unscripted. Like you and I did not script this. We had no idea. We
Yeah.
know there's some topics we're interested in, and we're just going to have a conversation. People, this is for any of you who are woo woo, right? They can calibrate. Scientists can calibrate emotions, right? People have you've seen things sometimes shame and guilt and fear really like low calibrations on what's called the vibrational scale. It used to be thought until last year that love was the highest vibration in the universe, and it could be. However, new research is showing that authenticity is vibrating higher even than
Mm.
love, which really floored me. And again, who knows with all this, what calculating, scientific equipment is being used for this, EEGs or whatever they're using. However, the point, if we just take the point versus the actual, semantics, authenticity is the most desired thing right now. And like you
Mm.
said, it's this overused, cliched word. But what we really mean is, like you said, the unvarnished, no one speech wrote this. I'm going to speak from right here and be real with people.
Yeah.
That's what people want because we talked about yesterday. The trust recession has happened. People don't want the BS, the smoke and mirrors, the fake book life, the filters on Instagram. It's like, just talk to me about what you do. And then
Yeah.
I know if that's a good fit and I know if we're aligned. So Lou, let's get into this now. You are, again, a master at, like you said, whether it's a YouTube show, podcast, blogging, something on social media. Let's talk podcasts specifically because
Hmm.
many of the people, those of you listening, are either you have one or you're going to start one. After hearing this today, probably more of you are going to go, Lou, help. So, Lou, help us understand, people, just like a book, can do a podcast and nothing can come of it, right? You can spend your time and share authentically and get your stuff. I do it every Thursday. I'm dropping an episode. Like we can do all that, but it doesn't mean it makes an impact
Yeah.
and doesn't make a difference. So what do we need to know? Just like, let's go over maybe the top strategies that we need to know if we're going to make a podcast impactful and return on the investment financially.
So to start off, one of the things that always blew my mind was a lot of other podcasters who've been doing it for a long time had approached me because I figured out how to monetize the show. My show is Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond. That's the main one, and
Yes.
there's been other
Yes.
ones, but I figured out how to monetize it a long time ago, and that show is approaching its 1100th episode. I forgot what number Sarah's episode's on, but people were pod fading. They were wanting to stop podcasting.
Mm,
And that helped me to spawn that I wanted to help a bunch of other professional podcasters learn the tactics. And I opened up my playbook and
yeah.
said, this is how I've utilized this platform to connect with key leaders and use podcasting as a way to grow my brand, grow my business, and really, really think about making impactful powerful long-term connections from these conversations that can carry over. And by the way, this wasn't always an opportunity for me. Many times I was keeping my mind open because I stepped into a lot of the speakeasy ways you need to be on how you can connect in every conversation and understanding what does the individual I'm talking with need today. And sometimes I might not be the answer. Sarah might be the
Sure.
answer, or another organization, or another type of service. And it's almost like my job on this planet to connect these people. So just to be clear that that's where it all started. But
Hmm.
when I did that, I put together a program and a course to show all the different ways that you can go. We called it Speakeasy PodCASH, turn your podcast into podcast. It's a little cheesy, we know,
Okay,
but
I want everyone to hear this though. Yeah, okay, fine, maybe cheesy, but podcast, guys, into PodCash,
it's a good one.
right? Means monetize. It's cute, it's clever, and also this is what you all want. If
Yeah.
you're going to spend the investment, like when you invest in a book, we want you to get a return. You want a return on your podcast.
So what we first do when we work in what we call the TLP launch, the Thrive Live production launch phase, we spend 4 or 5 sessions with the leader and the host of the program, the one who's the executive producer. We're the producers of it, but make it clear that people we're working with, this is their program, their brand, their show, their platform. To use Sarah's term, while we're referring to a podcast, we call it a program
Yeah.
because it is a podcast. It's an audio and a video promotional vehicle that we use to help connect you to who you want to. We understand who your goals are, who your audience is, who your target is, who you want to do business with, who you want to connect with. Because there are people who have come with us who have had a very well planned and machine oiled, if you would, line of business. But there's another area that they're trying to tap into, and maybe that's what they're using the podcast for. Maybe they're using it to talk about their features of their great company, and they want to be able to highlight a recruiting network where they're trying to bring people into the organization because they're looking for great people. This is something that's going on. It might also be an opportunity to showcase the great things that they're doing and organizations are. Whatever it might be, we define the strategy and we spend way more time on the strategy than we do on a lot of the execution stuff because we want to make sure that we're connecting to the audience and making sure that the program, the podcast, is going to have a good purpose. We also teach the secret of podcasting, Sarah, which I think is real important, and your listeners need to lean in and or look into this. And here's the key secret of podcasting, and this is something that blows the mind of all the podcast hosts. Because, by the way, a lot of podcast hosts think the minute they turn on their new podcast, millions of listeners are going to flow in, and they're all going to come in, and they're all just going to start clicking on your websites or checking you out and logging in right away. I want to make it clear: there's a lot of podcasts out there,
Hmm.
and we need to distinguish ourselves. But what is important, it is more important that they know that there's a podcast out there rather than the need for them to actually listen to the podcast, which means you got to tell people about it. You got to promote it. You got to go on other shows like Sarah's or mine or whatever it is. Tell people about this great content. You need to share it across your own marketing channels on social media or on your websites or wherever it is that you're out there. You need to direct people to come because there's a lot of direction out there. I always laugh that I used to watch late night television, but these shows are on too late, and I guess I'm getting too old. So if you were watching regular TV and you would see a promo for, hey, we've got Tom Cruise is going to be on Jimmy Kimmel tonight, or uh, Jennifer Lopez is going to be on Jimmy
Right.
Fallon. I didn't stay up to watch the show, but I knew they were on. And by the way, the next day I actually probably went on YouTube to go see it.
YouTube, for sure.
Exactly, right? The
Yes.
next day, that's what you do. I did it for SNL. I literally watch SNL.
SNL.
I watch it on Peacock now. I literally like
Right.
wake up after it's all done and I'll watch it afterwards. But I knew who the guest is. I knew who the host was, and I wanted to go see it afterwards at what was convenient to me. And I think this is what everyone needs to understand. Versus television, where it's a live performance, a podcast is content that is in perpetuity. It stays out there for as long as you keep it out there. And you want to target who you want that particular show to be at. And I think it's real important to recognize that they might not get it that first week that it comes in. They might get it in the second week or whatever it is, but they're going to know that it was there. And that sometimes is just as good as actually them listening to it. And eventually they will listen to it and they'll watch it and they'll see it.
Yes.
And if you're good and you keep working on this and you follow the steps of being authentic and all the things we talked about and being real, but also really sharing what is important to you and who you are, because that's who the world wants to connect with. That's who they want to have a conversation with. That will be enough to draw people into your world. whether
Mm.
it's into your business meetings, whether it's into your corporation as an employee, whether it's into someone you might want to partner with, or whether it's someone you're going to do business with. This is why this medium is so effective. If you're able to utilize a lot of the skills that we teach people, the speakeasy way we call it, you're going to have a very powerful and effective way to connect with people through this medium.
I love this so much, and let's pull out for everybody. Okay, so the normal stuff you hear people say how to do a podcast, come up with a great concept, make sure you're consistent. That's kind of pretty much what you get. What we're talking about here is like some next level things. So I want everyone to be thinking about, once you're doing your show, once you do your program, as Lou, as you're sharing with us, it's not enough just, which is a lot. I know it's asking a lot of us. We got to record it. We got to think of great content, get great guests, or if you're doing it solo. But this is so great. Pull the move from Saturday Night Live and Seth Meyers and Jimmy Kimmel and let people know you've got to do promo for the
Yeah.
upcoming show. And again, not just podcast comes out every Thursday. The general reminders don't do anything. What does things is, hey, join me for the next episode. I have Lou Diamond on from, Speakeasy from Thrive Loud Productions. He's going to show us how to monetize a podcast. Like, what's the hook? What's the guest if they're well known? What's the cool topic that we're going to be, Tom Cruise with his new movie, next, the final Mission Impossible, right? And that is, are you promoing? Like, so this is a question for everyone. Are you because Lou, to your point, some people may not even listen, but they think, oh, that person's got it going on. They're having guests, they have a podcast, there's something coming up. If it's good enough for Saturday Night Live, it's good enough, for all of us doing our podcast. So are you promoting with a juicy hook of reason, specific reason for someone to tune in? Even if they don't tune in, they're checking subconsciously, oh, you're a kind of high profile person, you're doing a show, you've got a program, something interesting, you're on their radar in that way, and you're getting the top of mind awareness that those of you who train with us know all about. People will buy from the last 3 people that came across their radar in an inspirational way.
Mm.
So not just like you threw up some thing on Facebook that says, buy my course, an inspirational way, which means, oh, they've got a guest on. Oh, they're talking about monetizing a podcast. Oh, they're talking about book writing. Interesting. I don't need that right now, but I've got top of mind awareness. When I do, you're the person I'm going to call. So Lou, once we're doing that, we're
Hmm.
promoing, we know who we're talking to. So my show's a lot new, my show's newer than yours. We just had our 1-year anniversary recently.
Congratulations.
I
Yes.
helped a lot of, I was doing all my books and my speaking and all that. Finally was like, this medium is so important. And so what's one of the next things if someone's being consistent, they're promoting, they're letting people know about it. What's another thing you did to monetize quickly? Because that's the thing a lot of people never do, ever.
Yeah.
And you did it fast.
Guesting. We have to talk about. So my show, I've had solo episodes,
Mhm.
but we have a guesting strategy, and we run through the ideal targets and who we want to be the guests. I want to make it very clear to all the listeners out there. Um, right now, Sarah and I are not clients of each other's. Sarah and I are colleagues. We do similar things. Maybe there's some overlap in partnerships that we could help one another in our own businesses, but I'm not going to be a client of Sarah's, and Sarah's not necessarily going to be a client of mine, at least not right now. But we don't think that. We're here, though, to provide expertise. So there's an interesting part. If you're listening or watching this episode, the content that's being created between the two of us has an output. And that output is probably educational at this point, right? Something educational that's there. And I'm building a strong relationship with Sarah. I've had some pretty famous people on my show. And
Yeah.
make it clear, while I would love to say I have some really good relationships with actors and actresses and singers and athletes that I've had on the show, I'm pretty sure that they're there promoting their own platform, and they're not thinking too much of me at that point. I mean, maybe they will. They'll remember. Yeah, I've had some good ones here or there. There's a very famous, successful entrepreneur who I'm actually seeing next week, Jamal Mashburn, who's an
Nice.
NBA All-Star for 10 years. His kid's playing in it, and he's worth tons of money from his own entrepreneurial brilliance, which he started when he was 20.
Mm.
And he and I have maintained a relationships and connection, and we've actually helped to make other connections. That's what the medium does. But when I got him on, I put him into one category. We have a system that we rank each one of them. And then there are the ones that maybe you're going to do business with.
Mhm.
This is a target that I'd love to do work at this company. I'd like to speak at that company's big meeting. I would like to help them with the services or the software or the solutions or whether I'm an accountant, a lawyer, a business expert, whatever it might be, whatever your expertise is, there's a chance to have that person in there be a client. And I want to make it clear that not every single one of your guests needs to be one of those. That becomes too self-serving of a show. We share the guesting paradox problem with the types of guests you have, but there's a formula. We actually figured out a cadence and a frequency that works really well and also positions the time that you have that particular guest on. Because when your show starts to build up a brand and you start to build up a brand, more and more people want to extend their own brand through you. If they want to be associated with your world, they want to be on your world. If they want to be on your world and on your program, on your podcast, on your show, make it clear. They probably also want to be in your world in the business that you do.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we've recognized is that having a guesting opportunity on a show, it isn't just a thought leadership piece where you're waxing poetic. To
Yeah.
your earlier point, Sarah, about long form content. I want to make this clear. While Tim Ferriss has one of the most popular shows out there, I don't have an hour and a half to listen to this, and you probably don't have an hour and a half
Or three in
or
some of
three
his
in some cases. Yeah,
episodes.
I think
Yes.
the Arnold Schwarzenegger one was like three.
So
Um,
long.
so it's basically there is a window of time that we're willing to go with. I think it's a little bit under an hour for a little bit longer forms. Yes, there are special ones you can break into two. There's this 20 to 30-minute window, which is actually ideal where our shows tend
Yep.
to fall into. But I think what's more important is not what happens when you're on the show and listening to the interview. The most important magic happens after you hit stop record.
Mm.
It's after having an amazing person on. I could share this. Sarah and I, after we finished her appearance on my show, had an entire conversation afterwards that was so valuable in recognizing the things that are there. It is in that moment that you're going to connect. So to your point about monetizing, I had a lot of guests on the show and didn't really see that there was the revenue opportunity for a bit. I want to be clear. I started my podcast back in 2016. So this was like when people didn't even know what podcasting was. And then all of a sudden, I get a phone call from one of the people who I'm on. I would love you to come in and help my organization. And I'm like, wow. I go, so this is really like kind of an interview. This is actually an opportunity for me to
Mm.
showcase who I am by showcasing somebody else, which is exactly the way I coach people on how they can connect in their sales meetings. So I didn't know it, but the formulaic way of
Mm.
connecting through your voice on a podcast is a
Mhm.
way that everyone, the guest, the host, the audience, can connect, engage, and win every single time you create great content. Who knew
Yeah.
that such a thing could happen? That is where we focus on. So guesting would be the monetization aspect.
Right.
There's other ways,
Of
there are,
course.
but this is the one that I found to be the most profitable and the most successful.
And it makes so much sense because you're a super connector and your whole mission is about helping people have these genuine, authentic connections. Lou, I love this. And if someone listening is like, I would love to, for some of my episodes, invite people on who really could benefit from the
Yeah.
services that I do. And what would be one move in order to, again, authentically, is it where you coach the person on? So I've seen a lot of models. I guess I'm going to ask it like this.
Yeah.
Know some people have like their strategy is actually like there's someone I know who her podcast series is having on she's in the financial space, so she has people on, and basically on the podcast episode the audience gets to see her help someone do like they do sort of a financial audit. She
Yeah.
gives them some strategy. Now a large percentage of those people then hire her after that show because they're so grateful they now have a plan. They basically got a free, analysis and consultation, and then they actually want, to continue on and have financial advising, investing, different things with this person. So, and I've seen, people do that in various fields, not just in financial field and all sorts of things. And it's really genuine because you're helping someone, right? So the guest gets help for, instead of something they'd probably pay a lot of money, for
Yeah.
private coaching, the audience gets to learn, like when we watch these TV shows, financial makeover, homemaker, you're like, oh, that's how you have to organize the pantry. I'd love that team to come in my house and organize my pantry in colorful tins that will look like garbage in a week, but I think it'll be pretty for a minute. And then, and so the audience wins. And then of course, if you're the expert, you are generating business and monetizing. So is there anything we would want to keep in mind for a person who would like to use either some of their episodes, or even like this person I know, it's fully transparent. She says to me, I'm going to bring you on, we're going to coach, we're going to do this thing. And if we want to work further together, great. Anything we should know in that guesting strategy?
Well, one, it has to be within your superpowers, in your abilities of what you can do. If that was the expertise, if she's a coach or an advisor and wants to give that advice, she also has to be sensitive to the fact that we don't want to force too much of in that short period of time
Yeah.
within that session. But I think it's important to know that when you ask really great questions, you're showing how you can be leading. The one who asks the question is driving the conversation, which is why when you're a host of the show, a really good job of doing that is that. I would say that in the strategy sessions, we would work out when we have clients on prospectively, what do we want to showcase? And in some cases, showcasing that organization is also giving a chance, even just by asking the question, what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing right now? That question alone is the ultimate opener for when you hit stop record, that when the interview's over, you now know that they've got a problem. Maybe you're the one to fix it, or maybe you know the person who could help fix it. Um, it's you have to great salespeople know to ask for permission. Permission-based selling has been a very tactical
Hmm.
tool that we all are very fond of. And that's why I was saying when you're in the host, sharing that information and being able to solve that person's problem. If that's what your
Mm,
show is about, great. It's showing your expertise. Awesome. If that's your lane, go for it.
yeah.
But if it isn't your expertise, and a lot of it is maybe some other stuff that can't be highlighted within that
Yeah.
show, sometimes just showing and asking the questions that feature what makes this guest so incredible. What are they doing that's amazing? Because remember why they're going on the show. And this is the important part. One of the things that I stress is when the interview ends, it is not about following up and then selling all of your wares and your goods, like, selling from the stage when you have that person on there. It's setting up another conversation with that person because the reason they came on the show was to showcase themselves, was to feature what they're doing.
Yeah.
There might be an opportunity after your connection in the conversation to continue that conversation. There might not be. And I
Hmm.
think it's real important. The same rule in business and sales, you've heard the old stat, the best baseball players in the world, fail 70% of the time. And in sales, it's like that too. You need a lot of fails, a lot of misses, a lot of offers to
Yeah.
get the wins you need. So you have to be a good assessment. There's a famous story, I think I even shared it with you, that I had a guest on a program and I was trying to do business with that particular organization. And it didn't work out. There wasn't something there. But in the promotion of that particular episode, that company's competitor reached out to me. And I
Ah,
ended up doing business with them because they were watching what was out there. It's more important that they know about the episode than whether they listen or not. And for the record, I still don't know if that person ever actually listened to the episode or not. But
right.
they knew that I spoke to that particular person and I was positioned in that way. And if you think about what I started in the beginning, if you are the leader or the CEO or the president or the founder of your company, and you're positioning yourself within your space today, these programs are the way that will showcase you in a way that highlights and elevates your own brand, that others will see why you're the one we want to connect with.
Oh my gosh, I love this because, like I said, the model of, like I know a life coach, someone in the financial space, someone in the she does like a particular brain science modality that do the demo version. Again, in a very it's not a sales conversation, but
Yeah.
they're doing demos so that the audience can actually see. I know somebody who's like an integrator, like, which is an entrepreneur way of saying a director of operations. And his strategy was like, because people are like, what the hell is that? It's from the EOS world of Gino Wickman and those guys, if people have read those books. And and there, a lot of the reason that these podcast experts were wanting to do basically we'll call it the demo guesting strategy, is because a lot of the public doesn't even understand what that means. What is it like
Yeah.
to work with a lawyer? I've seen lawyers do this. I've seen what does it look like to work with this person who does this particular modality? So it actually was really effective in like sort of the education of what it's like when you get this kind of support. What you're talking about, and I want everyone to take away, this is your power move, okay? You're talking about the Joe Polish idea in some ways that I'm hearing of the best way to get what you want is to help other people get what they want, right? It's a generosity based model, which
Mhm.
is really a core of my values. So it's like, let's get this person a win. Let's get them visibility on my platform. And then you ask the question, what's your biggest challenge right now? And what's so beautiful is that is an opener. Like you said, it's not a closing conversation. That's not the
No.
point. But I know Dan Sullivan, if anyone's familiar with
Yeah.
Strategic Coach, he built a $40 million a year company up from, ground zero. And he said, I've met Dan a few times, and he said, all I did at the beginning is everyone I had the opportunity to meet, genuinely meaning it in my heart, I asked them, what's your number one goal this year? And they would tell me, so it's very similar. It could be their dream or their challenge, right? That's the essence
Mhm.
of every great marketing. What's the dream? What's the challenge? And if we can help someone, even like you said, I might not be able to help them, but if I know oh, you're trying to figure out a trip to Thailand. I have a friend that lives there. Let me put you in touch. I mean, anything that can be of service to that person's either overcoming the challenge or achieving the dream is a next step. And then the story, I call the processional effect, that the competitor who may not have even listened, but they knew about the show and who you were talking to hires you. That's magic.
And the real magic, as you're saying here, is something I say, and it's part of the speakeasy methodology we share at Thrive Loud, and that is the currency of connection
Yeah.
is help. How can I help you? If you're able to empathetically see someone's problem and figure out how to help that organization, human being, team of people, um, potential client, prospect, whatever it is, existing client, if you're able to help them, that is the value that they see, and you're able to make that connection. No difference helping that person find the place to go on their trip to Thailand.
Right.
Um, they will know that you have exchanged some value to them, and that is what we exchange in. We exchange in this currency of help, and we are making the place better. I joke about it, but somebody said to me, like, what's the greatest surprise that I've ever had about being a podcast host or helping to produce other people's podcasters and podcast shows? And I said, we're helping the world, and one little conversation at a time. And it is opening up eyes, whether it's the two people who are having the conversation or you listeners and viewers, the flies on the wall who are listening to this, and something that we said resonated and you're able to take that and put it into play. We helped you.
Yeah.
That is what we're trying to do when we connect with people. And if we recognize that that's the currency, not the dollars, not the logos on our screens and our websites and who we do business with, it's what we are able to service others with. If you understand that that's the benefit, this program and platform is how you're going to grow your brand to whole new levels, and yourself, to help others recognize that you're that person and that go-to person to deal with.
Lou, I cannot think of a more fitting and really awesome conversation to have today. I'm so grateful that you have been here to share this with us and give people some really specific next level thing when whether you all are thinking about starting long form, you have something, you've got a podcast. Lou, where can people find you? If they want to know more, they want to reach out, like teach me the speakeasy method. I need to understand podcast to PodCASH, best places for people to reach you.
The easiest place if you're anywhere on the web is to go to thriveloud.com. And I'm at Thrive Loud, ThriveLoud, everywhere in social media. So go there,
Amazing.
you'll connect there, learn about Thrive Loud Productions and everything we can do.
We'll put the show notes. We'll have thriveloudproductions.com. We'll have your social handles. We'll have a link to the book because I'm a book girl, so we gotta always let people get to know the Speakeasy Method through the book as well. Everybody, check out thriveloudproductions.com and find Lou on social so that you can be kept abreast of what's going on because there's evolutions. There's the core strategies that never change, and then there's the nuances. And especially right now, again, it's not a luxury; it's a necessity to have this piece for your brand and to authentically connect with and serve your ideal people. So, Lou, anything else that we didn't get to say? Anything else you want to shout out to this audience right now?
No, I just want to say for all of you listening, you got the real McCoy here in Sarah Cannell. This is great content. Keep listening to her program and listen to how she incorporates what the guest is sharing and take those tips because she's got a great synthesis thing going on in her. You got a cool synthesizer going on. So keep listening to your program too.
So today you've got super synthesis and super connection. I am excited for you all to go put this into the field, right? Let's not make this something we think about. Let's get into action and make it a game changing moment. We'll see you all on the next show. Thanks for being here.